Well, the idea of these staff talks, lectures, is basically because over Christmas the big names are going to be doing stuff, and most of our members will either be busy with family stuff or gigging themselves. So this is just a way to kind of keep the momentum rolling, but not kind of waste the time of any big names or anything, and just let the staff do it. So this is the first of quite a few we've got lined up, which hopefully you'll all enjoy.
Indeed.
But right. So shall we get on with it?
No time like the present. Take it away.
No.
Teach us something good.
Well, sure, that side of it. Oh, well, hey, I'm chasing him off already. Look. Okay, I'll just clear my throat a minute. I would like, if I may, to take you on a strange journey. A journey through the human mind into the brains of your audience. Now, as I've said, this is a talk about rapport and rapport building with your audience. Something that far too many magicians just gallop past, and a mad rush to get to the kicker ending of their latest trick, completely missing the point that without rapport, the effect will actually have far less effect. The time to start building rapport is right at the start, which is why I started a little bit odd there. If you recognise the quote, you'll recognise the quote, but if you didn't, you'll just think I'm being a little bit eccentric, which I probably am anyway. But if you didn't recognise it, it does other things as well, but we'll talk about that for the time being, because there's a thing about the human brain, whereas people like people who like the things they like, and people like people who think the way they think. So starting with that quote, if you recognised the quote and where it's from, you'll immediately, if you didn't already know me, you'll already like me more because of it. Because I like something you like, so therefore we're part of the same club. And the access to that club was the passphrase of the quote or a reference to it. And that's a very, very simple but easy way to actually start, hit the ground running. Second thing that little introduction does is it offers some information. I'm going to be giving you something that you want. Now, people love to have information because we all hate the gossip, but we still want to hear the gossip, and especially if it's something that pertains to us as well. So we want to know what it is, and that again will build people's interest and build their rapport. And if I'm going to give something of importance to you, then your subconscious brain will assume that he's giving something to me, therefore he must like me. If he likes me, then therefore I must like you. So that's another thing, because to use a phrase that's brought up in hypnosis quite a bit is bypassing the critical faculty, which basically means you've got your analytical conscious brain at the front, which is thinking about things, and then underneath that you've got your subconscious, which just is emotions and feelings. And if you can cut past the logical part and go straight to the emotional part, you've got half your work done. And basically that's what most of these things I'm going to be talking about today are basically just shortcuts to bypass that and get in there and actually make that connection and make the reflective kind of emotion driven brain kind of think it likes you when it doesn't. Well, and hopefully it will end up liking you anyway, but that's the idea. The third thing that introduction does is it's starting a story, and we are all storytelling apes. We everyone loves a story, and it's very much related to the second point, because it's information, but in this case the information is the story itself. We want to know what the story is, and not everything you do has to be a story. It has to be kind of like about a plucky young farm lad who gathers his friends and goes off to fight some great evil or whatever. Of course, it can be that, but it might be just as simple as why does one card face a different direction to the other 51 cards on a deck? Or it might not be a story at all, but the stories are very, very good ways of getting into this kind of a rapport building kind of thing, because it goes back hundreds of years. Before we even had writing, as people would sit around a fire and tell stories to each other, and that's how they would get to know each other and build up. So, excuse me. If you're interested in that, you might want to look into and the Hanlon story circle, which is that's Hanlon. There was a Hanlon or Hamlin. I've lost track of his name now. The Harmon, the guy who does the cartoon, not the guy who does Elastic Bands. But if you look into his story circle, that gives you an idea of how to kind of throw something together. And if you want tips on writing it, there's something called the Snowflake Method by a guy called Randy Imogen, something like that. I can't recall, but you can look it up or DM me and I'll tell you about it. About how to actually construct the steps of the way. But yeah, so storytelling is a great way of kind of jump starting the whole process. If you look up rapport building, on the internet or on YouTube, you'll find loads and loads of people talking about repeating people's names as you speak to them. This dates back. It actually predates Carnegie's How to Make Friends and Influence People, but that's the one that popularized it, should I say? But it does work very well, but it can also work very badly if you don't know what you're doing. And sadly, most people just repeat the advice, don't understand how to use it. And the thing is, you've got to use their name when it's appropriate, when it fits. But if you just try and cram their name into every sentence, which I've seen salespeople and some beginner magicians doing. I mean, this is back when Seven was asking advice on how to appear creepy. That's what I said. Just keep repeating the name, because that'll immediately set off alarm bells in their head, and people will think, it's not they want to spend time with you; it's they want to get away from you. So listen to the name, use the name, and use it appropriately, but don't keep saying it every sentence or 2 or 3 times in every sentence, because that will frighten them off. But something you can repeat every sentence is their own words back to them. Listen to what they say and repeat back what they say using their own words. Because this goes back to what I was saying about people like people who think the same way they do. And if you're using the same words they are to describe things, then it's clear that you're thinking the way that they are. So, for instance, if somebody says as a hobby, they hunt kangaroos with a bow and arrow, instead of saying, "Oh, really?" So, is there a big call for hunting kangaroos with bows and arrows in Nebraska or something like that? But you're using the exact same phrase they used, along with the location they previously gave you, to repeat it back to them. It still fits into a conversation. It still fits into the flow, but you're echoing back their words, and that's interesting. Everything. I mean, like, for example, using that. What I've just said there, hunting with bow and arrow is pretty much the same as bow hunting. Most people would hear one and know that means the other straight away. But if somebody uses one way of saying it, don't use the opposite way. Use their way of saying, describing things, no matter what they say. Don't have to be talking about hunting, but but whenever anything comes up, when you're in a performance with somebody and they say something they use as an odd or unusual word pattern, try and use that exact pattern as much as you can, because that's going to hook into them and their brain, and their brain's going to think, "Oh, I like this guy because he thinks the same way I do." So, excuse me just a second while I take a sip of Viking blood. But yeah, so you echo that, and another thing that you'll hear a lot of is echoing people's body language, which again, much akin to the name thing. It's it can be a good thing, it can be a bad thing. The thing you've got to avoid is don't watch them like a hawk and copy every move they do to mirror them, because that's again is going to seem really kind of weird and creepy. But give it a moment. To breathe, then do something quite. For example, if somebody scratches their ear, don't lunge at your ear to do the same. give it a moment, then perhaps wipe the corner of your eye someone. So you're doing a very similar move in the same time frame, but it's not this kind of mime trapped in a glass box kind of bullshit, which is going to set alarm bells going to go in. So that's another thing. I've got going back to stories again, which I meant to mention earlier, but open loops and closed loops is something that's also very important with storytelling and building rapport and keeping people interested, because an open loop is when you mention something, say, "Oh, come back to that," and then you should come back to it. Sometimes you forget, but usually you will come back to it. And that's an open loop because that keeps people attentive in what you're doing, because they want to know the end of the story, the end of what you're telling them. And if you watch good kind of street performers, and by street performers I'm meaning buskers, not this guerrilla magic bullshit. But what they'll do is they won't do start trick A, finish trick A, start trick B, finish trick B, start trick C, finish trick C. What they'll do is they'll start trick A, start trick B, start trick C, finish trick A, mention trick C, finish trick B, and you'll have this overlapping thing, because that keeps people in. Because as soon as there's a clear break, people can disengage. They can, okay, that's done. I can walk away now. I can clap. But whereas if you're trying to keep people's interest, or if you're busking, if you want to keep their money, you want to keep them there as long as possible. You want to keep them engaged as long as possible, and that's another great way of doing it. But just keeping these open and closed loops and having them overlapping, so you can keep them going and keep them interested as long as possible. Because again, it's very hard to not like somebody who's doing something you're engaged in, and it's also very hard to not be engaged in something that someone you like is doing. So these kind of repeat back and forward off of each other. But going back to the mirroring, both the verbal mirroring and the body language. Another thing you can do with that is, because it bounces backwards and forwards, you can actually use that to steer them as well. So when you're mirroring, their tone and energy level, you want to be just slightly above them. You want to be just that little bit more engaged, that little bit more excited about the magic or whatever. Because as the rapport builds and they start mirroring you, as you're at a higher energy level, their energy level will rise up to where you are. So as if you're just down here and there here and you stay there. So as long as you keep that little bit above them, as you go up, they'll keep coming up with you, and that will also pull the audience as well, because it'll, it's at least this natural thing that the human brain does. It will try and mimic that what's around it, which it's familiar with. I probably should have planned this out a lot better than I have done, actually, for which I apologise for. But the big thing, I mean, I know that a lot of you will already know a lot of these things. Hopefully, there'll be some new things to to think about and to chew over. But the one thing I will say, that if you are not familiar with any of this, the quickest way to learn none of it is to try and learn all of it. So just pick out one thing, I'm saying, and work on that, and then build it up, and then add in the other stuff later. But the one and only thing, if you're going to take one thing away from this completely, this is the one thing to do, and that is be interested in your audience. Don't pretend to be interested in them. Actually, be interested in them. And if they mention a ball of wool their grandmother gave them, for that moment, that ball of wool is the most interesting thing you've ever heard about. You've really are fascinated by it. You want to know everything about that ball of wool. You don't have to stop your magic to to ask about them for about 20 minutes, but with that intent, they will pick up on it from you that you're interested in it, and that will build that connection with between you as well. And it goes backwards and forwards, and like I say, it's this will build. And the most interesting thing about this is although you're building rapport with a single person, it actually works on everyone around it as well, because the people around you will also see this. There's a guy doing magic to someone he's just met, but they're getting on really well with each other. So their subconscious brain will think, well, how is he getting on so well with them? He must be a really nice, likable guy. And as soon as their brain thinks he's a nice, likable guy, their brain's in a situation where they are forced to like you because you're a likable guy. Because if they don't like a likable guy, then they're some kind of idiot. So just by focusing on this one person and building rapport with them, you're in fact actually building rapport with everyone around you as well, and everyone else will get swept up into this kind of ball of excitement and interest, and you will be making a lot of friends. And that's what you should be doing. I'd say you genuinely be interested. Don't try and fake it, because you can always spot a fake. But if you are genuinely interested, people will like you. Most people, when they're in a conversation, are not listening for what the other person's saying. They're listening for a gap for them to start talking. And we all do it. But that's just the thing. But if you're one of the very rare people that actually do listen to what they're saying and respond to what they're saying, they will have no option but to like you. And that's the basic law of how to build rapport. I mean, there's lots of other things you can go into it. But basically, those are the things, and I don't want to get into kind of nitty gritty and kind of go into kind of hypnosis talk and about things like that. But these are kind of basic quick hacks that anyone can do. I mean, we're talking about on stage, but you can also do it in your day-to-day life as well. And it will build rapport, and it will make people like you, and hopefully it'll make you like them as well. And you'll be doing better magic and be making friends as well. So there you go. That's about a quarter of an hour's talk. Which I probably missed loads of stuff out I was planning to say but forgotten about. But yeah, so any questions? Anybody left awake?
I don't have any. You let it go out. I don't have any questions per se.
You have any? If I could say, like, when it comes to what you were talking about maybe like 5 to 7 minutes ago, when you were saying the whole, it's not that you're mimicking the spectator. It's not like you're mimicking their movements. Because if you think about it, of course you're gonna, want to be interested in them. Look at what clothes they're wearing, what color shirt they have. If they have short hair, long hair, glasses, you're going to want to get all this identity from them.
Oh yeah, totally. Notice as much about them. You don't have to mention it. You don't have to actually verbalize it.
Yeah,
but take it in and be aware of it.
Important though, and it's so important, because I feel like when you want to produce an effect, let's say you're going to do a reading, or you're going to do a cold reading, or you're going to go into a situation, you're going to go into a sequence where you're going to do some reveals and whatnot. I think it's always nice to add this extra little sprinkle, and that is one of Kitten Emperor's techniques, where he mimics the person. So if they put their hand on their chin, you kind of just gracefully put your hand on your chin and just kind of look at them and kind of go through the motions, little things like that. That's all I can kind of say to what the topic is so far.
But like I say, but the point is with moving, don't be in a rush to kind of just do the kind of mime thing, because that will sell our both going. Timing is everything. But you can always tell people who've just have read watched a YouTube video or just read a short paragraph of it, and they've read the word, they understand the concept, but they don't actually understand the meaning of the concept and how to work it. So take your time and let it breathe and act like a human, which I know is hard for a lot of magicians, but
well, with these stage effects, I mean, take your time, work with it, and you're right about that one. And what's crazy about some of these effects is it's not like a card trick or a coin trick where you practice with a person right then and there. You can recognize your mistakes, you can move on. Some of these other gigantic effects that produce amazement to your 500 plus people, what have you, is it needs to, you're absolutely right when it comes to timing, and the whole situation. So but
even with card tricks as well. I mean, so many people kind of ask questions like, "Oh, I've got a school talent show coming up. I've got 5 minutes to do something. Which 7 tricks should I do?" Like, no, it's like, let the magic breathe, for God's sake. And if you're just machine gunning magic, you're not getting the time. You're not getting the
learned
time
the
to
hard
actually
way.
build
I
rapport.
learned the hard way on machine gunning magic, and when it comes to different mentalism techniques or different readings or different Q&As or whatever it is you're trying to do, those always fly nicely as well. Especially if you can attach a nice story, you don't have to worry about being the mood monkey. You know what I mean? So,
If you're going for world records, fit as many in as you can. But if you're trying to entertain somebody and do a performance, even if it's just mates down the pub, take your time.
that's more on the lines that we do.
yeah.
Yeah. But that's all I can offer. I don't know. But
Yeah.
that's nice subject on magic.
So, any other questions or comments from anybody?
Yeah, I kind of had a thought like, okay, when say you're dealing with hecklers, which granted in like a larger show you don't really deal with so much, but like on small little like up close and whatnot, you get a lot of hecklers and that sort of a thing. Do you find that it's more worthwhile to delve in trying to build more rapport or just back off and let them be hecklers?
This is actually one of the points I did mean to bring up, but I kind of slipped out of my mind. Is the more rapport you have with the audience, the less likely they're going to heckle, because once you build rapport with them, they're engaged with you and what you're doing, so they're not going to try and one up you or whatever, or kind of prove you wrong. The only type of hecklers you are likely to get with rapport building are kind of people who are trying to help you do the magic and get in the way of it. But the better you get with rapport building, the fewer hecklers you will get, and you will still get them. It's not a perfect thing, but yeah, if someone's heckling, yes, you should be kind of heading off before they start heckling. But if they do, bring them in and and try and make them the center. This is a little bit off of topic of what we're talking about here, but if someone's heckling, and there's different type of hecklers. Some are just dicks who want to show off, in which case, fuck them off and get rid of them. But a lot of the time, it's people who want to be part of the show and they're feeling left out because you're the magic boy and they're just a guy there. So bring them in, make them part of the act, make them, and like 9 times out of 10, they will actually be the best volunteers you can get, as long as they're not the type of hecklers that want to screw you over. And this is the thing, is you've got to work out, it's a skill you'll build up the way you perform, is kind of recognizing the different types of hecklers and how to deal with them. But for the most part, as long as you have rapport to begin with, you will have far fewer of them, and of the ones you do get, you can hype up the rapport and build, still bring them in and end up with everyone loving you. There is the few twats, which there's nothing. That's just human beings for you. Some of them are fucking arseholes, and that's what you're getting with you put down lines or whatever, or different ways of it. But primarily, it should be much less of an issue as long as you have that rapport there to begin with. Does that answer what you? I think everyone's still muted again. So. Right.
Oh, that's good. I mean, covers pretty much everything I could think of.
Is it acceptable if somebody's heckling you to take them outside and beat the crap out of them afterwards? I mean, what are we talking here?
Well, yeah, if it's the Arsenal type of heckler, yeah. I mean, like I say, I'm a Glaswegian, just fucking nut the bastard.
There's some props you can get from Prop Dog. You can get it from propdog.com, and it's basically the world's. The prop is this. It's only $25, and it's called the world's smallest levitation device.
Oh yeah, they're brilliant. There they are.
Well, it works great for hecklers because let's say somebody's heckling you, and you take that thing out and you hand it to them and say, "Don't open it, Jesse," or whatever pattern you want to use, because they're heckling you, and when they open it, it's gonna explode, okay? And it's gonna be bad. I mean, they're gonna get surprised, but then you can lead it on them and make it an effect on them, exactly like you said. Make them a part of the situation. Oh my God, you see, that's the whole rhythm of it.
For the people who don't know the gag, it's basically a device. It's got a banger in it, and when it goes off, they jump, and that's the levitation. That's what the gag is. It's a great little gag.
It's basically a gun-loaded pop cap. It's not harmful, but it does produce a very loud snap noise that's extremely loud, like if you pop a a dollar store cap gun, and when you shoot that thing, that's what you would give a heckler. I feel like that's taking it pretty strong though. I don't know, but yeah. hecklers are tough, or you could just let them know about what you're doing, your
Yeah.
skill, or
I mean, the thing is, with hecklers, there's not just a type of heckler. There's so many different types of hecklers, and they have different motivations and different interests, and it's not really something you can learn by kind of reading about it or watching videos or listening to a talk about it. It's something you've got to learn by experiencing it, and you'll pick up yourself of what type of people are when they're heckling, of whether it's just they want to get involved, or it's they try to put you down, or they think that you're trying to steal their girl, or they think that they're gonna get the girl over there that you've not even spoken to if they can show you up. Well, there's so many different kind of methods of people heckling you, and there's hundreds of different responses to each type as well. So it's yeah, I mean, like I say, if you have good rapport with the audience to begin with, that should reduce it. But there's always going to be some, and how you deal with them, it depends on the type of heckling they are and the type of performer you are as well. So
I popped the levitation device into chat if anybody wants to check it out.
yeah, it's a really cool little gadget.
yeah,
Actually.
thank you for that, Jay Ezra. I saw that link. It's a cool device, 25, but it's fun. You could use it in a lot of ways, and one of the ways he teaches it is if you have a heckler. So Prop Dog does teach you a method to use it. If you have a heckler that's kind of making it tough for you or whatever, you just use that. You know what I mean?
I mean, I've got a mate who's got. I don't own one myself, but I got a mate who's got one, and we were playing around with it a few months ago. And I always, as part of my EDC, I carry a working squeaker and a non-working squeaker. And we were playing around with that at the pub, and I had the squeaker in my hand, and I was prodding it and going, making the squeaking noise. And of course, people were thinking it was just a squeaky thing. So I said, "Well, open it." And of course, they opened it. It bang!
Nice.
And
nice.
it's because we built up this expectation of this little tiny little squeak, squeak, squeak. That made the bang even more impactful.
You're still kind of giving them some kind of a fun moment because they're expecting something, and then something else completely comes in their face and unexpected. Didn't know. Yeah, and it's pretty wild that levitation device. But I have one, but yeah, I use it and it's just great. It's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, again, it depends very much on your performing type and persona.
Yeah.
But yeah.
You don't just put it in somebody's face and do it. No, there's a moment for it. Yeah, I even do it through a shotgun card trick. So you can have a card selected, and you have a duplicate, okay? And you force the card, okay? So you force the normal one, okay? But the duplicate has a hole in it that you hole punch, and you take a lighter, you kind of like, make it look like a bullet went through it after you do the hole punch, okay? So then after you do that, you do a top change. That card is ready to be on top. You have them lose their dupe into the middle. You do a top change now, and you cover the little area that is covered with the hole. But while you're doing this, you say, you know what, we're going to get rid of the deck. And you take the deck and put it in your jacket pocket and switch it for the levitation device and palm it. Nobody knows you have the levitation device now because you put the deck in your pocket. You take it out, you put it behind the card, you open it, you bang it, remove everything and say now, and you reveal the hole in the selection. Even though it's a dupe and a forced card, it doesn't matter because they believe that gunshot sounds loud, dude. It sounds amazing.
Yeah, so that's nice idea.
Yeah. But it's just like a palm if you were doing a switch, almost like if you were doing a billet switch or something like that. So that's how you would handle the world's smallest levitation device when you move it from point A to point B behind the card.
Looks like the refills are not available anymore, unfortunately.
Oh.
The caps and even the SWAT caps, it looks like there's just they're 404.
Yeah, you can get them on eBay and places. So you don't have to get them from Prop Dog. They're just standard size.
Oh, okay. So your standard gun caps. Okay, cool.
Yeah, you can totally get them at like a dollar store or like a Walmart or Target, whatever. Just go to the toy aisle and look where they have their little I mean, I suggest going to the dollar store because the dollar store seems to have them more than like a Walmart does for some reason. But
That makes sense. Yeah.
you could
Well,
totally,
if you're into self-loading firearms, you can even make your own. It's,
yeah. It's no,
no, that would
these
be
things
allowed.
are perfectly loadable. You load it right into the mechanism, and just be careful. Don't put it towards your face when you load that because it's kind of a dangerous thing. They teach you. But you're talking about hecklers, though. But building, but
Screw 'em.
getting back to building rapport, like the rapport factor is if you're building rapport, I agree. A heckler should be very slim on them approaching you or what have you. Maybe, I don't
There's
know.
also the effect the rest of the audience is already on your side, so they're going to help you in that regard as well.
Yeah.
Well, you could always
Oh,
say
yeah,
something from
yeah.
a mentalism standpoint. You could always say something like, I know we're all trying to communicate with each other and trying to understand one another's thoughts and intuition and believability right now. But for the sake of argument, just so we make sure that everything's clear, everyone is on each other's side and we're all going to go through this together as one cohesive unit. And if you say something like that to sort of lay out the map to kind of explain how this is going to go, what have you, then you could even say that, okay, ladies and gentlemen, now this is how this is going to go. Everybody's going to write down a question. You're all going to put it in here, and then you can do whatever you want to do. But I think it's building rapport. It's not so much about the rapport. I think it's about building the rapport as well.
Yeah, I mean, another thing, great tool you can do is if you're doing walkarounds and someone's heckling, you can just leave the group and say, well, there's obviously someone here who's not into this, but the rest of you, if you are interested, please kind of find me later on if you see me with another group. Just feel free to join in. And they will. You'll get these massive groups, and this one heckler will be stuck on the outskirts, just sulking to themselves with no one to talk to, like Billy No Mates. While
Nice.
the people who did build the, were in rapport with you and were interested, will just ignore them and come to see the entertainment. So, and that's another great kind of screw you can do for hecklers as well. Don't work on stage, but for walking around, it's ideal.
For stage, it might be a little different, but for walk around, it definitely.
I mean, on stage you don't really get hecklers anyway, and
No.
and if you do, they're in for anyway because you're on stage with a mic, they're sitting in the darkness.
Yeah.
There's no way they're going to win anyway. I mean,
Yeah,
even just a level footing, they're not going to win. But with the odds are so stacked in your favor when you're on stage, it's not even worth discussing.
But what's so interesting about this is rapport. Also, not only does it apply like to the heckling situation, it also applies to once the audience, like the people who are interested in what you're doing, the people who do want to be amazed and have their minds read or have their revelations revealed or what have you, they want to go along this journey with you. What's so nice about this is the rapport is important because it's almost like this trail. Like hopefully the person on stage is bringing their audience with them on this journey to come to this realization, or it could be a reveal, or it could be a reading, or anything on that standpoint. But the rapport, I feel, would be important even in that aspect as well. Not so much the heckler point, but also if you want to actually
make
do
it a
an
connection.
effect. Yeah, if you want to do an effect, it applies.
Yeah. I mean, the interesting thing is I get people I've performed to kind of huge amounts of time later. I'll run into them out and about in the pub, and the first thing they'll say, "Oh, you're great. Can I buy you a beer?" But I've got another couple of mates who are in the same kind of magic kind of group I travel around with.
Yeah.
Who aren't focused much on rapport building. They're focused very much on the magic. And when they meet people they've seen before, which is far fewer of them because they tend not to be remembered that well. But if they do, it's the first thing they say, "Oh, can you show me another trick?" Whereas I never get asked that. And you're like, "Oh, can I buy you a bit?" And eventually, they won't have to kind of chat with you. It's, "Oh, you get anything else you can show me?" But it's always, "How are you? Can I get you a drink? Can I have a chat?" Because it's a personal connection rather than just a performing monkey.
Let me show you what I can do. Boom, 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 boom. Right,
Yeah.
right. And that's very careful because you have to be very careful with that because there's moves. I don't even want to say too much, to be honest with you, but it's just, there's moves that you just don't want people to know. You know, you don't want to make it look like a move or turn it into a move because then it turns into a move. And
Yeah,
everybody,
I'm very much of the opinion. I mean, we're going way off topic now, but I mean, I'm very much. I won't even do an in-hand riffle shuffle in front of, in front of kind of specs because I try and anything that makes me look like I'm good at cards, I want to kind of strip away, because it gives them an out straight away. So if they see you're good at cards, then straight away, no matter what you're doing, even if it doesn't involve cards, it's the answer is, oh, he was good at cards. He's good with cards.
you lose
Well,
that little bit of mystery. Yeah,
yeah,
that little bit of mystery is gone. Yes, that is
yeah.
true.
Yeah, that's why I think gaff work is so important with that. Like, if you're working with cards, you got to do something that,
Yeah.
that's not
But again,
really going to hit hard.
with rapport, with building rapport, because they're more interested in you than what your fingers are doing. Even if you are doing kind of very slight heavy stuff, they're far less focused on it because you're having a conversation with them, and they're not just talking to someone who's paid to entertain them. They're having a conversation with someone they've just met and they quite like. So it's there's far less focus on going on your dirty work. That's just because you're just fiddling with cards or doing whatever needs to be done while you're having a conversation with a new friend you've just made. So I mean, that's another great way of kind of taking the heat off of what you're doing. It's just
It's like there's
being friends with them.
invisible layer that you're trying to pierce through. And that makes sense because if not, you're just the hired performer that's supposed to be the person that does the tricks that are X Y Z. And in a report case, I think it's important because if you could do that and make it more conversational and intuitive, then that might make it much more effective with whatever. Let's say you produce a strong effect. Let's say you choose to do an effect that's extremely strong. You know what I mean? That'll freak them out, and you know that.
Yeah.
So all the more these little weaknesses that you can display that can show that you're normal, this and that, but then you hit them with these moments. And I think if you can organize those into a way where it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then I think you're right on your way to seeing what is in your mind as far as doing excellent work and
Yeah.
building rapport and using it to your advantage because
Yeah,
you
but
can
also,
use that technique.
I mean, so when I'm performing, I'm very conversational, and I don't always work with cards, but when I am, I'll have the cards, but I'll drop them down my side, and I'll pick them up, and I'll drop them down, and I can say just that movement while you're talking allows you to do so much dirty work. And I'd say,
Absolutely.
Yes.
my classic
100%.
pass is horrible. It is absolutely fucking horrible. But I never get caught because I'm just moving my hands and
Yeah, your eyes. Yeah, everything
I
about the
know
control of the face.
I'm not caught. I'm doing something dirty now. I'm just chatting to them and
Yeah.
it just flies by.
That's one of the number one reasons that a lot of the things that I like to perform for people, I don't like to make videos of or record or showcase in that way because I can't build rapport with the camera and
Yeah, I mean that's one of the reasons
and
I don't come on camera very often because it's I like interacting with. I don't. Yeah, even when COVID was on, I shied away from kind of Zoom calls and virtual shows because
it's just not my style.
even though there's people on the other side, it's still I like dealing with people who are there. You're that far away from me,
Yes.
and
That's fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah, not being able to put the deck down to my side without it going off frame of the camera and looking suspicious is a killer for a lot of my work. Like if I can't do that, then there's a lot of my stuff that just doesn't work on camera because it's not burnable. It relies on my conversational skill and the on and off beats that the camera is not going to afford you ever.
Which requires more work on your end,
Sure.
and it requires more work on the material that you're providing because you're having to use misdirection, timing misdirection, verbalization, this and that to get out of these little moments of, the moments that need to be covered up and camouflaged, which is much more tough. Are you doing a lot of card magic, or what exactly is it that you kind of specialize in?
I mean, when I'm talking, I'm speaking more on coin and card magic, close up in a close up type venue, like one-on-one social style magic, where really the rapport is what can get you over a lot of those bridges. The fact that you have this instant, almost relationship building skill is what takes the attention, takes the heat off of a lot of things that, like we were saying, like the camera is never going to blink, it's never going to look away. You just can't build rapport with a camera.
Yeah, the unblinking eye of the camera, as they say.
Yes.
Catch what you're doing. Yeah. I mean, hopefully the angles are nice. But I think if you're working, like, let's say you do Penn and Teller or AGT or something of that nature, of course they're going to give you the best edits and what have you to make you look the best you can. But as far as when you're in the real world, doing magic for real people on the spot, let's say you got 15 people surrounded for you, proscenium arch style, you would obviously know what tricks to perform. You would know what movements to do, where to talk, where to look. But if you only had one person, you would know what to do. Or the same thing with 5. Let's say you had 5 people.
Right.
Because what you do it's very different. Let's say you had 1,000 people in front of you. What would you do if you had 1,000? Okay, but if you have, let's say 15, I mean, I think it's the you could use the rapport tactic to get where you need to go, and it might even be strong enough for you to even use it to conclude what you need to do. It might even be that strong, just so you can come out on stage. My name is such. You don't want to be too fake. You know what I mean? I think that's what rapport is. You want to be authentic and genuine. You want to be very real.
Like, as far as rapport building, like on different scales, like when we're talking stage or even like large broadcast television, like let's say David Copperfield, like he still has a way of building rapport by, like, he gets away from the stage illusion. He sits down and tells a story about his grandpa, does an ace trick, and that's his way of building rapport and kind of seeming like one of us, or an everyday guy.
I love when magicians and performers do that.
And that's why they do it, because if David Copperfield didn't do that, if he just flew around stage and did all these amazing illusions, it's just like the shotgun magic thing. You'd lose interest. There's no rapport.
That's exactly what sets him apart from the rest.
Exactly, that's what makes
But
him memorable.
the thing is, like I was saying, you're focusing your rapport building on one person, the person you're directly performing to, but everybody else in the room gets the fallout of that as well, because, like I say, it's because their brain thinking like, oh, they're getting on. He must be a nice guy. Therefore, he's a nice guy. I must like him.
He's right, dude. That is true.
So that's still, it's even though you just focus on one person, you can still do that to 1,000 people. Yeah, because that still works, and it still it still goes in the the subconscious brain of kind of you're bypassing the critical faculty to use that.
In on exactly the moment that you're providing. It's that zeroing in of each audience member, regardless of how many there are. It's just a matter of zeroing in their attention to what it is happening at that moment, whether it be a conversation with the spectator, and then they're not going to know what hits them, but then it's a reveal, or whether it be I don't know. That's the thing. There's multiple ways you could go about,
or it could be
the magical moment.
It could be like certain audience members. I think excuse me, I think it's I think in Maximum Entertainment, Ken Weber says something. It's probably been said many times before this as well, but speaks about, like, if you're performing for a certain group and they have a notable member in the audience, and that, make mention of that, don't call somebody out, but say, where it's great, just like comedians do. It's great to have so and so in the audience tonight, or whatever.
Because doing
excellent, of course.
Instantly builds like, oh, they know them, or even if you don't know, at least you're paying attention, or just like saying, hey, it's good to be in Detroit tonight.
Yeah, doing corporate work. The first thing you need to do is find out who the CEO is and all that kind of thing. Like, you need to get that right down, because, again, it's there's with just kind of a wedding or something like that, it's a bit tricky to do. But if it's a corporate thing, there is a hierarchy in place, and you need to get your finger on that straight away, because that, again, is something that's critically important, and that's something that everyone in the room already knows. You've got to pick it up, on the fly as you're working.
Right, and that's a whole different realm of rapport building.
Get hold of it.
I feel like if you do a wedding, you can still make it look like $1 million. You can still make a wedding look absolutely fantastic, just like a headlining television show. If you know what you're doing,
even if you're just doing something for a few mates down a pub, you should be aiming to on that kind of
you can still make it look yes.
But I mean, I know that get a wedding magic's not a big thing in the US at the moment. It's huge in the UK over here. I
It's
think
fair.
it's got to be
I mean,
big in the US. But
it's fair. I mean, we get I mean, booking. I book at least 12 weddings a year, probably. Okay, individual little celebrations and whatnot and all that, and I even have a nice set I do with the silk and the ring for the uh, ring reveal because let's say sometimes the fiance or does not know that she's about to be proposed to. Okay, so let's say she doesn't know she's going to be proposed to. This is just like a party, but then all of a sudden she's going to be hit with the he's about to propose. So they and sometimes I'll even give him the silk and the gimmicks and all of that to make it look like an effect while she's holding the silk and all of that. So I mean, weddings are fun, plenty of mentalism, but it's very light. And their anniversary, you could do a card trick with their anniversary. So let's say the date of their anniversary is the 4th of April 2021. That's their anniversary. So you organize the playing cards to go 0421 2021. You organize the cards like that. You do fall shuffles. You do all this. You do like a um, a chaos shuffle of one word. The deck is face up and face down. Shuffle those cards in between, but keep the block that you need to reveal the answer. Okay, because ultimately what's going to happen is you're going to tell them that you're spreading the cards face up, face down. You do it into 4 equal piles. You have them select and you just shuffle these cards up, and it really looks like you're shuffling the cards face up and face down. Then you snap your fingers and you tell them that all cards are going to go back to normal again. You spread the deck and you have the sequence of individual cards that remain. And you tell them, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't tell you that all the cards were turned face down, but these cards that are right here organized are in a special sequence. As a matter of fact, can you just look at these and see if it resembles anything to you now? You can go into a reading if you want before you give them the reveal that this is your anniversary." Or whatever you want to say. I don't know, but it's just little things like that. I mean, I think it's very important to hit those notes.
I mean, something that's great to do. I mean, this is going way off topic of the thing now, but a really, really nice thing you can do for wedding magic is when you're doing head table one, which the bride and groom. This is an idea I got from Wayne Goodman. Get a book made up, and you can get them kind of printed, kind of to order now. These big, but get it made up as a book test.
Yes.
But it still reads the normal. But it still reads a normal book. But pick a book that has a wedding in it, and change the name of the bride and groom in the book to the bride and groom of the wedding. So you do a book test on them, then present them with the book. After that page you've looked, and look a few more pages on. There's a wedding there, and what does it say? What the bride and groom are called, and it's their names. And then say, and then give them the book as a. It costs. I mean, like I say, about 10 quid.
You could actually gimmick that and make it yourself. Yeah.
Well, yeah, you could, but you can get actually hardback books printed to order for less than 10 quid. So yeah, and it's a really nice kind of giveaway to them as well, so they can.
Because the book tests that I've been working on are like different book tests, like with serial numbers on licenses, or use the license that they have to get the book test answer, or you could use just different things. But that's actually a smooth idea. That's very nice.
I mean, I always like stuff that kind of you can give away to the bride and groom at the end, and especially if it's got somebody that your name's in it as well, so it's free advertising for you as well. But yeah, that's a really nice one from from Wayne Goodman. But if you're into book tests, give me a DM, because I've got the book test book by Jim Carefield, which is basically
that I know. I mean, we know everything from Corinda. Obviously, Ultra Mental I think is awesome, because I'm trying to do a book test that doesn't involve the old school method. I think it needs to switch. Unfortunately, I don't agree, but it needs to obviously go to iPhones or whatever. And people look through everything, and we have to do it that way. And it's unfortunate, and it's just it doesn't it makes it that much more difficult. So the book test for the ultra mental, where you get their phone number, their address, their age, everything about them, you get every single piece of information about them. That's one that I love. You could do obviously just a basic book test, which is, with the one I do with the $10 bill. So you use a serial number, you memorize the serial number on the $10 bill. And then you basically use the numbers in the serial number to access the book, get the book. They go through
But
the pages and this and that. It's an impromptu method.
yeah,
But what's crazy about this is when they ask for the um, when they ask for the or when the magician asks for the bill, he needs to ask for it. Can I have a $10 bill, a dollar bill, whatever? And he needs to ask for a 10. I always use a 10. So let's say somebody has a 10. Hopefully, right? Let's say they do. You grab it, you fold it, you switch it, you open it, you do it that way, like that. Okay, that's the only way.
well,
That's
just
the only
just
way.
nowadays, people having money is exceptional, let alone with specific notes
Well,
or
yeah,
bills.
but I was even thinking about doing a book test with a credit card. You might as well do it with a credit card if that's the
Yeah.
case. You know what I mean? Like, and get a peek and just get a quick peek and a quick yank and remember. That way you can recite and say, oh, page number this, and then boom, and you're able to go into the
Well,
revelation.
Hoy you can use for perfect.
Yeah, but it's just little small ideas that.
But because like I say, anybody interested in book test really should pick up the book test book. It's absolutely fantastic,
Oh,
and it's got literally every book test ever a few years ago in it, and fantastic resource if you're at all interested in book test.
so good. You could just do book tests and like billet work.
Just work
You know,
libraries.
it's too simple. Like, and don't get me wrong, cards are great, but I mean, a book test kind of steals the show, if you really can take it there.
Yeah, I'm a huge book test fan. I've always loved them. I generally just do Hoy, but I've just book tests and magic wallets. I love them. I absolutely love them.
So many peaks you could get. Let's
Yeah.
say they have, does anybody in the audience have a $10 bill? You have your $10 bill clipped, folded, ready for the switch. They give you one, you switch it, or they have a credit card that's similar to yours, or they have anything that you can switch that's similar that you can get access to the number on. That's what you would do. That's common. Okay. Boom. Once you do that, you look on the shelf. You can equivocate them a book. Let's say you have 7 books on the table and you equivocate them the book you want them to get. So then boom, now you've equivoked their book. Now you're there. The other books you can just toss behind you for dramatic purposes and go into the routine and do whatever revelation you wish, whether it be on a billet, chalkboard. Sometimes people might use a you know, throughout this work, you could put a billet inside of a envelope and do the revelation later and say, inside of my pocket, I have an envelope, and inside of the envelope is a white piece of paper, and the word you saw was that one, or however you want to reveal it, but the process is.
But you don't even need to equivocate down to a book. You can have 7 identical books just with different covers on, and let them genuinely pick the book they want because they're picking the same book regardless of which one they go for. It's I love book tests.
If you have a stooge
So many
in the
clever methods of doing it.
I know if you have a stooge in the wings, they suggest that a stooge in the wings, and you have 3 different books, each of which are different colors, and you have identical books, duplicates in the back and the wings that your assistant holds, and once you tell them to select one, they select one. You throw the books into an area where the assistant can see what books are left, so they know the book to grab next. They grab the book that the spectator has, and then the magician goes through the motions of explaining what you're going to look at and what have you. He book tests them, and but the magician is blindfolded, or you could be looking away. So it's better if your eyes are covered or what have you, because there's going to be a moment where you walk back towards the curtain and you look to the left and you see what your assistant wrote on the chalkboard, as opposed to what the spectator was telling you what page and this and that, and it's a what is it? The Ultra Mental Book Test by Corinda. That's what it's called.
I mean, a very cheeky
Very
method.
cheap.
A very cheeky method similar to that I used to do with a friend of mine was, on stage, you get them to kind of, discover. It wasn't actually for book test. It was for.
Very cheeky. Very cheeky. Yeah.
It was for. But what they'd do is they would write it out on a pad and pin it to the back of their jacket and come in to pick something up off the stage and go and leave again. And as far as the audience could see, it was just a stagehand coming and picking something up and taking it out of the way because it's no longer needed. But I'm looking at their back, which has got pinned to the back the word that was chosen, and it's okay. I'm not looking off stage into the wings. I'm not. No one's saying anything. But I've got the read because it's being brought directly into my vision and leaving again. So I'm not a little kind of cheeky way of kind of doing stuff like that. But anyway, we've gone miles off of topic now. So back to Rapport. Any more comments about Rapport? Comments or questions about Rapport? Or Rapport building?
Sinister Minister, he's left now, but he did leave in the chat. He said he was going to ask about audience size or distance from audience and how those dynamics impact rapport. I think we covered some of that, but
very little. Because as long as you're building rapport with somebody on stage, or if even if they're not on stage, if somebody, I select the person in the audience, it'll still be picked up by people at the back of the audience anyway. It'll telegraph through. It's like a Mexican wave. It'll be felt throughout the room. So it's it doesn't matter if you're performing 1-on-1 or to a stage of 1,000. It'll still work.
Right on.
So anything else, or just people want to kind of jump over to the other VC and commence with a traditional kind of after lecture jam?
I think we've covered.
Well, everyone's muted, so I'm not sure if they're agreeing or not agreeing. But whatever they're doing in silence.
Yeah, we definitely covered a lot, and I think, like you said in the beginning, can't learn it all at once.
As I said, the quickest way to learn nothing is to try and learn all at once. So break it down and just go step by step.
That's so true.
That was my biggest problem when I first got into the art. I overwhelmed myself, like so many young artists do.
I keep saying to people when they join, it's like you're not running a race; you're learning a skill. Don't.
Even with that knowledge, it's still something I struggle with.
Oh yeah,
it just is because it's interesting, because it's something we love and something we're curious about, and so you got to have focus at the same time as all of it.
Yeah. It doesn't hurt that cool new shit's always coming out.
Oh yeah, for sure. Always.
Well, yeah, if it is cool new shit, 9 times out of 10 it's hyped bollocks. But there we go.
This is true.
Yeah. That's what I mean. Yeah.
It's so cool because you love what you do and you get to talk about it and read about it and practice it. Juan Tamariz in The Magic Rainbow explains that, where he says that we're so fortunate to be able to practice and love what we do and share it with people, even though you're fooling them.
Yeah, but I think one of the great things is the magic community is such a small community. You can get in touch with Juan Tamariz. You can get in touch with different people. I mean, like I say, we've had some great names on for lectures so far. We're in talks with Michael Close to come on and do a lecture for us kind of next year sometime as well. And they're like, these are serious people who, if you're a guitar player, you're not going to get kind of the big names to you're not going to get Brian May to come and do a little jam with you. But with magic, you can do it because that's within a small community.
Right.
And that's the beauty of it. That's why
it's a very niche art form.
Yeah,
and we support each other 24/7. That's a joke.
I mean, Michael Close. I mean, that's a name that I love Michael Close. I've never met him, but I've studied his material, and
he speaks very highly of you.
And I mean, I have his material. When I first got on, I ordered a box from Tannen's Magic Shop, and they gave me a box, and inside it was Michael Close's DVD expose on Lance Burton's mentalism secrets and all these different material. And he gave, and when you watch it and read it, it's so nice. And that thing is old, but even back then it was good. You know what I mean? They're kind of ahead of their time. You know what I mean?
But yeah, I mean, like I say, it's a great thing to have people like that within arm's reach. And another person we're talking to as well is Justin Miller, who's I mean, okay, he is like a modern day Harry Lorraine, where he thinks he created every piece of magic that exists. But he's a very knowledgeable guy, and he's a very creative guy. So, and he's hopefully going to go on soon as well. So. But anyway, okay, I think we're done with Rapport, at least for the time being. So hopefully you'll enjoy the rest of the mini lectures from the staff as they kind of get wheeled out through the coming month, and then the main lecture will start again in January.
Thank you so much.
Well,
Yeah, this was great.
I'm here.
Thanks.
Right, so everyone hop over to the other one now and do some magic.
Awesome.
Ah,
Cheers, guys.
Coming in here. What the fuck?